Oh my goodness. Did the rabbit hole start for you in the Nation of Islam? We're talking with Gina Yashere, comedian, actress, producer, uh, all of the things, writer. Bob Hart's Abashola on CBS. We're going to talk about the writer strike as well. Did the Nation of Islam, because I feel like so many of us are walking around with this crusted over colonized
Mhm,
minds and hearts. And it takes something to shake
mhm,
that. It takes
mhm.
something for you to start to be curious about where you come from. I can't imagine growing up in Great Britain. Everybody wants to be a British citizen. You want to be, you want to
Yeah.
be like the Queen, and you want
Mhm.
to be around the people and back to them with the tea and the scones and all. You want to be all of that. And the same thing coming to America. You want to be the best American. You want to show them that you're just like them. But the truth of the matter is, the greatness of our history is so much richer. And because you have that knowledge, which I'm not jealous of it, but at the same time, I can't do what you just did. I can't go back thousands of years or even hundreds of years to point to somebody, because here we were snatched and stripped.
Exactly. Yeah. So I had that knowledge, but didn't have that knowledge. So because I was educated by the colonizers. So even though I knew some of that, because at school I was surrounded by a lot of Caribbean kids who have similar history to African Americans. People think, a lot of Black people in America think, oh, they're coming from the Caribbean. They think they're better than us. They're not. They've had very similar experiences in that they are descendants of people who were snatched. The only difference is I do a routine in my stand-up where I say Americans did the equivalent of burglarizing someone's house and keeping the stolen goods in their own home, whereas the Brits stole, but they kept it in other people's houses. So when the Brits stole Black people, they didn't bring them all to England. They kept them in colonies in the Caribbean, away from British society. So that's why the Brits have this inflated belief of themselves that they're better than Americans. We're not as racist as the Americans. Look what they did. It's like, no, you did way worse, but you did it hidden away on the colonies in the Caribbean. So British society couldn't see the filthy, disgusting things you're doing to Black people because it was in the colonies, in Jamaica, and in Barbados.
Barbados, yeah.
So they hid what they were doing. And so we were all educated by that system. So a lot of Caribbean kids who were born and raised in London, same as me, didn't know that they were descendants of Africans because they weren't educated that way. And so all they saw of Africans were what the British fed them, in that they were heathens running around the jungle chasing a white man called Tarzan and trying to cook white people in pots. Or we were in Africa unable to feed ourselves and relying on the charity of good white countries to help us eat. And that was the image that they fed for all of us growing up. So even though my mother told me, listen, you're from a strong African family. We go way back. You are from royalty. I'm being called names at school by other Black kids going, you Africans, you're animals, you're heathens. All you do is run around naked with bones for your noses. And that's the image that was getting. So I kind of was ashamed of my Africanness for a long time because I was made to feel that way. Because other Black kids were saying to me, you're less than, we're better than you, we're Caribbean, we're from Jamaica, you're from the bush, and there was a lot of that because they weren't educated. And so I didn't, even though I knew where I was from and I knew my culture, my mother used to say to me, listen, those kids that are calling you names, they don't know their history. They've not been educated. Their people were stolen and they've lost their memory of where they're from because it was stolen from them. You are lucky you did not have that because our family, none of us was stolen, that. But I didn't understand it until later. Then when I joined the Nation of Islam, and Roots, the movie Roots helped. After the movie Roots came out when I was a kid, that's when, I remember, all in the book, it's all in the book. I remember my brother coming home from school one day crying because his friend at school had gone, you're a slave, you're Kunta Kinte, look at you. They started calling my brother Kunta Kinte. And my mother was like, you go back there and you tell that stupid boy that you are not Kunta Kinte. He's the Kunta Kinte. It is his people that were stolen, not ours. Go tell him that he needs to watch that film again and understand what happened to his family. So it took a long time for me to gain that knowledge, and joining the Nation of Islam later made me go, oh, and connect all the dots. And, you know, as we've gotten older, a lot of people now, Black people in England now know where they came from, but they didn't. When I was growing up, I grew up in the 70s in England. Black people didn't. And it wasn't their fault. The colonizer, the winner of the war always gives you their version of history.
Yes. It's time for the lion to tell the story.
Yeah.
Cack-handed, C-A-C-K, handed, a memoir, Gina Yashere. It is hers. I just downloaded the audio book. You'll be joining me on my walks, Madame, every day.
Then I have to come back and talk to you another time, and you have to go, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm going. That's a and I'm listen. You got an open seat, because you know part of my mission in life is to have amazing conversations with amazing people, to hopefully unlock in myself and others a better way. Right? I mean, we could be better. We should be better.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic? I think about, you know, a lot of your comedy is before Meghan and Harry and all of the stuff that's happening there now. I don't know what your thoughts are. But, you know, what is happening over there, to your point, Great Britain feels like they're so much better. And I was also saying, because the Queen died, had she died 20 years earlier, maybe people would have cared more. But now people know too much to even care about the coronation of Charles. Like they're all trash now, right? Nobody, you know, you got Wales and Ireland, you know, giving them the middle finger. I mean, it was wild watching.
Yeah, I mean, Americans know better now. British Black people have known. I mean, the thing is, we were raised, the Queen has been the Queen my entire life. But when she died, I had that knowledge of the royal family, and the fact that the entire wealth of the British royal family was built off the blacks, of the Black people's exploitation, you know, and the murder and genocide of Black people. So I'm like, when she died, I was like, oh, I'm sad that she died for her family, but it means nothing to me, because I'm like, my family's bronzes are still in your museum and you're refusing to give them back. So no, and the Queen presided over those, you know, over those conversations of giving us back our bronzes, and she has said she did nothing to facilitate those bronzes being given back. So I'm like, what did you do for us? You did.
Or the gold of Ghana, the Caucasity to be buried in a crown that literally was stolen from Ghana.
Yeah. And it's not just Africa. India, that massive diamond stolen from India. You know, it's not just Africa. They went across the globe and wreaked havoc across the globe.
You know what I can't reconcile with? Because you know, I've been Black my whole life, and I see a lot of Black people really strong, physically, mentally, all that. How? I'm looking at this tiny place, this tiny little space with these people didn't brush their teeth well. Friends putting on lipstick instead of, you know, folk weren't bathing. They weren't doing none of this. No civilization. Eating potatoes. Can't really farm very well. Stupidly coming over here doing rows instead of circular farming and making sure the crops keep. I mean, just not brilliant, but dominating the entire world. Make that make sense.
Psychological warfare, that's all I can say. Psychological warfare. I have no idea how they did it. This tiny island went across the globe and convinced, I don't know. To this day, I still don't know.
All right, we need to ponder that, because I want to reverse engineer. Like, how do we undo?
It's psychological warfare, because it's still working today. It's still working today. In that, you know, generations of Black people who, we are gaining more knowledge of ourselves. We are, but we still have that nugget of inferiority that has been bred into us over hundreds of years, where we would sooner kill another of our own. You know what I mean?